Welcome back to another episode of the Hardcore Casual with your boy, Base the Kid. As always, please like and subscribe, share with a friend, a colleague, a relative, an associate, an enemy, and anyone in between. I appreciate all the views, comments, and everything else. Now, this one's going to be a little bit different. There are a couple things I want to talk about right at the beginning, so I'm going to get to those. And then I've got some interesting quotes and tidbits from a few interviews I've done a little earlier on today at the Anthony Joshua versus Robert Helenius press conference to give you right at the end of the video. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So, Floyd Mayweather recently came out doing an interview. I think it was with Fight Hype or Fight Hub. Not 100% sure which one, but I do know that basically within the interview he was saying, you know, that Naoya Inoue, that the next thing he needs to kind of do is, you know, come and fight in the States, you know, take that random blood and urine samples, and potentially he could face Tank Davis in a catchweight fight. Now, obviously, the implication there is come and fight in America because you're not being tested in the Japan. You're not being tested in the East. So come over to the West, you know, make sure we take those tests to make sure that you're not actually on any substances as to why you're getting all of these victories and these knockouts. Now, the thing is, I don't know necessarily how informed, you know, Floyd Mayweather is on any boxing outside of potentially, you know, TMT or PBC affiliated cards and broadcasts, but Naoya Inoue has actually fought in the US, I think 3 times previously. I think once in California and twice in Las Vegas, which is, you know, Floyd's neck of the woods, so he probably should know that Naoya did fight there. And also he's fought over in the UK as well, I think in Scotland, if I am not mistaken, but I know that he's fought on these shores. So he hasn't just fought in Japan. He's on all of VADA's testing this. He has to be enrolled in the clean boxing program for the simple fact he was WBC champion in several different weight classes. So the implication there is a bit out of order. Not to say that it can't be possible, but you're ultimately trying to take away some of his accomplishments by saying, well, he may not be a clean athlete. Now, in that same sense, I mean, look, there's been several occasions where Floyd has had people suspect him of doing stuff, even though he's never actually been convicted or caught or anything like that. You know, you had the issue with the IV, but the Las Vegas commissioner basically said, I might have said there was no break or breach of rules within that. I mean, we know that before and after every fight he would get his hands injected with I think it's silocaine, which is a substance basically to help protect brittle hands, but it's something that it's legal in Las Vegas, Nevada, but it's not legal in a lot of other states, hence why a lot of the time all of his fights was in Las Vegas, just because outside of, you know, the I guess the casino life and, you know, all of that part, you know, it allows him to, you know, have his hands heal up a bit quicker than would normal. But again, it's not, you know, it's not accessible or legal in all of the other states. So it's a bit rich to be throwing stones at, you know, when your house, I'm not saying the house is made of glass, but, you know, it's not necessarily on the sturdiest of ground either. Now, again, I'm not saying Floyd ever cheated with anything, but there was definitely, you could, I guess, call that a therapeutic use exemption, a TUE, and I'm sure there may have been others that have taken place at some point. Obviously, I guess you put down legally on whatever forms you're filling in, but yeah, it was just, it's a comment that's made in bad taste, because ultimately, while we don't know what the local commissions are like for Naoya Inoue, he is VADA listed. It does show so either on his box rec and everything else, and I'm pretty sure that him being a guy that does you know, employ a big fanfare when he does fight, you know, he's paid millions and millions of dollars, you know, however they convert that from yen to the dollar. He's paid millions per fight, so you would assume, especially if he's got a lot of opponents coming from outside of Japan, that they would want that testing. And I know for a fact there was testing done in the previous fight with Stephen Fulton. There was testing done with Maloney. There was testing done with Butler. And there was testing done with Nonito Donaire on both of their fights. Plus, obviously, when he was in the World Boxing Super Series as well. So, you know, those claims are kind of done in a bit of poor taste. But ultimately, that and the whole, you know, fighting Gervonta Davis at a catch weight, even that whole thing, clearly it's just a way to kind of keep your name and your guy's name relevant, especially as, you know, no one's really talking about the 1.2 quote-unquote million pay-per-view buys from Gervonta and Tank right now. Everything's about Inoue and Crawford, you know, actually fighting, you know, competent and legitimate opposition. So yeah, overall, look, I feel like it's in bad taste. I feel that Floyd's above that kind of thing, you know, especially when he faced you know, some form of lawsuit or whatever with, you know, Manny Pacquiao after making certain claims. I think there was a compensation that had to be paid after making similar fraudulent claims. So look, while I don't rule out the possibility of anything being the case, like yeah, that one not called for. Like, give the guy his props, and ultimately if he ever does move up to 130, 135, then you can start talking about a potential Tank Davis situation. But until then, like, just carry on doing your exhibitions, innit, because that's really all you need to be focused on at this point in time. That's my opinion. Let me know what you guys think down below. So Regis Prograis and Devin Haney have been getting into it again on Twitter. Prograis at the moment is unhappy. I think he said that, look, he signed his part of the contract for the Devin Haney fight, which was scheduled to be taking place on the 28th of October. However, Devin Haney wants the date moved because that's the same date as Tyson Fury versus Francis Ngannou. Regis Prograis is basically saying that Devin is being a bitch. He's trying to punk out. He's trying to mess up the flow of, you know, when it comes to their training camps and whatnot. But Devin is basically saying, well, look, you're an idiot if you think it makes business sense to be going on the same date as a big pay-per-view event in the Middle East, you know, between Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou. That also then kind of tells you that this event is scheduled to be a DAZN pay-per-view, because if they're worried about a pay-per-view event that's taking place in a different time zone affecting their market, it has to be because they're looking hopefully to generate buys for their particular fight also. So if you've got an event that's taking place, even if it's taking place at like 3-4 p.m, like, there's gonna be a certain part of the crowd that will be looking towards that. They're trying to pay the money for that, which means that will take away from the money that you could potentially be making on your pay-per-view. Neither guy is a huge pay-per-view star, so realistically you're gonna kind of need as much of audience as possible to be able to come in and buy that to, you know, make up the purses and whatnot. Me personally, I don't think it's a pay-per-view fight. I know Devin had his very last fight on pay-per-view. Regis, as far as I'm aware, hasn't been on pay-per-view, but I don't think Devin's a big enough star yet to where he can really command pay-per-view like that. But he does get paid a lot of money, and I guess the ultimate thing is, well, you've got to try and find a way to compensate and pay, and, you know, sort of pay that money for what he's gonna want and what Regis is gonna want. So I can understand why he wants it moved. But Regis is already like, well, look, I've already sent off my paperwork. I've signed my part of the contract. You're just being long. Do you really want this? If not, like, get out of the way and let me go and do something else. Otherwise, like, stick to it. It will be interesting to find out what happens, whether it gets moved back a couple weeks or whether it gets moved forward a couple weeks. I would prefer the former, and it would actually get moved forward maybe 2 or 3 weeks. But with the way schedule's working at the moment, it might end up that it ends up going in sort of the middle to end of November instead. But yeah, I mean, look, ultimately that's kind of what's happening with that one. I understand it from the point of view that it is possibly going to be a pay-per-view event, and ultimately you don't want to clash that with others. But on the other hand, it's like, it's not really a pay-per-view necessary fight. And, you know, I feel like if that's what it's banking on, then just keep it off pay-per-view, because it's not gonna gain you a huge amount of buys internationally or in the US. You're talking about what, 120,000 buys, if that. It's really not going to be worth it. So yeah, personally, keep it off pay-per-view, but probably that's what the issue is, and it's going to end up going in some point in November, but we'll see what happens. So with this one, I was at the Anthony Joshua versus Robert Helenius press conference. I managed to speak with Malik Scott. I spoke with Maisie Rose Courtney, Dempsey McKean, Gerald Washington, Frank Smith and Eddie Hearn. So I had a pretty decent day. Now you will be able to find the majority, actually no, you'll be able to find all of those interviews on the Undefeated podcast channel at some point, either tonight or tomorrow, depending on when you see this video. What I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna post up some interesting comments I got, especially from Eddie Hearn and Frank Smith, with regards to the Richard Riakporhe and Jaya Pataya purse bid situation, and also the perceived Matchroom agenda that takes place at TalkSport and some other areas. So yeah, have a look and we'll be back shortly. Going back yesterday with Eddie being on TalkSport with Simon Jordan, obviously there was some information that came out whereby Simon Jordan had said that he had found out information from a Friday. Supposedly that's when you'd found out. Then it came out that no, it was actually Saturday, and there was obviously that misinformation put out into the public. Do you feel like there is a lot of misinformation put out about Matchroom shows or Eddie or yourself on those bigger platforms that isn't fact checked and then isn't, subsequently retracted and apologized for?
Yeah, look, that's the problem with the world we live in now. Access to information is so easy and quick, and people like Simon Jordan have a voice that, people and the fans listen to, rightly or wrongly. He talks like he is literally the saviour of boxing and has every bit of knowledge about the sport. And the reality is, he doesn't. That's just the truth. He's very good at what he does. He will always be very good at what he does, but he talks some rubbish. And the problem is, people will hear things like that, Matchroom new on Friday, and he's trying to paint it in a picture that makes us look like we held on to the information to Saturday. And I got phone calls, I got the email, it was Saturday morning, about 1 a.m. for me, 1:30, something like that. And as soon as we found out, as soon as we could all get on a call together at the right time zones, we dealt with the matter, and within 2 hours it was out there. But this is the problem with misinformation. People take his word as, they're lying. They haven't got a clue. And this happens a lot. It's not just Simon Jordan, it's other people. Other people hear things, they say it's like it's factual. And that's obviously detrimental. That's not just in boxing, that's across a whole range of things these days. And that's what social media is bad for. It has a lot of benefits, but that's what it's bad for.
Cool. Okay, so moving it real brief. Obviously, yesterday we had a scheduled purse bid for Richard Riakporhe and Jaya Pataya. Richard put out a statement basically withdrawing himself from that, saying that he had two previous offers that were there and then withdrawn. The whole thing doesn't necessarily make sense to me, because if you felt like you had been played or messed about, well, this is your opportunity right here. There's no more chance for messing you about. So where do you think that came from ultimately? And is he ducking the smoke from Jaya Pataya, or is there more going on at play, do you think?
Look, firstly, our focus now is Jaya Pataya. He's been messed around twice. He had the master neck stuff, then had moved on to Riakporhe. It's been 3 months or something like that he's gone through this process. Our focus, we believe he's the best cruiserweight in the division. Our focus is to get him a fight as soon as possible. I feel sorry for Richard Riakporhe. I know Richard Riakporhe very well. I like him a lot. I get on very well with him, even beyond when he left Matchroom. Had many conversations with him. I feel sorry for him because he's obviously been given terrible advice. It's nothing to do with the fact of, we had these offers and they didn't come through. No, you just didn't want to lose a purse bid to Matchroom. Same as the Fraser Clark situation. And also, I had communication from Boxer, and then I had a few discussions. I think it was 3 or 4 or 5 days later. This was a few weeks ago. I said, "Can we have a call?" I never heard back. But if you really want an offer, right? If you go, wouldn't you chase up? So we made offers, and it's not like the fight wasn't there. And like you say, just go to purse bids. But it's nothing to do with, in my opinion, right? Nothing to do with Richard Riakporhe being scared, not wanting to fight. Nothing to do with that. He's worked hard to get into that position. All it's to do with is a promotional entity who come into the sport saying we're for the saviour of the fighters, we're all about the business, we're all about the fighters, blah, blah, blah. You're not. You're about your own personal gain. And that's fine. But be upfront with it. Don't talk shit. You know, all you care about is your business, Boxer, and your platform. No problem. But come out with that. Don't come out and say, oh, no, this, that, the other. It's all a load of rubbish. And they're out of the depth.
First things first, congratulations on your Terence Crawford-esque performance yesterday on TalkSport. How did it feel?
It felt good. I mean, we did say that we'd only have 2 minutes, but that intro was 35 seconds. So, look, it was good yesterday because, like, I think people started to see, if you don't think there's an agenda from some people against me, Matchroom, whatever it is, no one brings that kind of energy to any other promoter like Simon does. But when he got found out, you know, and I'm not saying he was lying, but he got completely found out of portraying facts to convince people of a certain situation that was completely incorrect and false. Well, he didn't even really apologise when he did actually get found out live on air. But that's the situation. He thinks that everything he says is factual. Rather than saying to me, did you find out on Friday? He said, you did find out on Friday. And I said, no, you're wrong. No, I'm not. You're lying. And it's like, if I'm not there to defend myself, he's just telling the world these inaccuracies. Do you know what I'm saying? So, but I can't defend myself at all time on air. But people watched it and went, wow, this guy, like, he's spitting, like, he's going red, he's like swearing live on air. His head fell off yesterday. So, you know, sometimes there's no need for a rematch, and there wasn't one for that, but I gave the people what they want. The trilogy's out. I mean, you can't want to see a trilogy now. It's like, you know, the first one was painful. Yesterday was brutal. So I enjoyed it.
And last question from me. So obviously yesterday there was the purse bid situation between Jay Opataya and Richard Riakporhe. Richard put out a statement basically saying that he'd been messed about and was no longer due to, he was going to go a separate way. Now, wouldn't that necessarily make more sense if the purse bid wasn't on the same day that the statement came out?
Of course. Like if you know, but what's happened is they've got to the stage that the purse bid's there and their bum's gone completely. So they've gone, either we haven't got the money to bid, or two, we can't risk losing this fight to DAZN, or three, which is really worrying, you're not allowed to fight on any other platform in any other circumstances. They've done this to Fraser Clark. They've really affected his standing and his profile and him mentally as well. Now they've done it to Richard Riakporhe. The thing that makes me sick is that they're made to post these statements. Who's managing these people? Who's the lawyer of these people? We were about to make a massive bid yesterday, and also Richard Riakporhe was about to fight the best fighter in the division. If he beat him, which, listen, he could do it, he becomes the number one in the division, starts making millions on pay-per-view. Who's taking these opportunities away from him and actually convincing them that this is the right thing to do? If it's contractual, you need a new lawyer, mate. But this is pissing me off because it's like, you know, we want to work with everybody. Shut up, do you? You won't even roll the dice on a purse bid. Let the best fight the best. Win or lose the purse bid, it's on you. I've lost loads of purse bids. I won one yesterday, Rocky Hernandez against Shaki Foster. And I was ready to go for one today with Fabio Wardley. But too many people are too worried. Like, don't worry about losing a purse bid. Roll the dice. There's a saying, and this is the saying that explains everything. Fur coat, no knickers. That's exactly the saying, which is, look at me, here we go. But underneath it, nothing at all, no substance. So fighters, start standing up for yourself and get some proper representation.
So as you can see, you definitely think something's afoot. But yeah, look, put your comments down below. Let me know what you think. Is there any validity in what's being said? What do you think about the issue with Boxer, TalkSport, and all the other things in between? Again, if you want to see the full interviews for those and all the others that took place today, head over to the Undefeated podcast channel. They will all be uploaded on there, definitely by Thursday, but there should be some up tonight as well. So with that being said, as always, please like, subscribe, share, and send around these videos to everyone who you think might be interested. I appreciate it. And that's the Hardcore Casual out.